with our mighty team. Heroes we be.
Hello and welcome. Good morning. Thanks for joining me again. It is time to look at the shelves of our friendly local game store and see what is new this week. But don't take my word for it. Please, if you hear something I mentioned that sounds interesting, call ahead to your friendly local game store and make sure they have it in stock. Or if they could special order it for you. Or better yet, just buy my stuff. Anyways, let's head over to the friendly local game store and see what's new this week. And right there you can see it's amazing how many times this game comes up in a conversation without people realizing what they're talking about. How many times have I, at least once a month, directly or indirectly, people refer to this game as wasn't there a game where the whole planet's a dungeon and you got to go through it and it's like a game? What was that called? This is it. X-Crawl Classics is the game where the whole world is a dungeon and you got to go through it kind of like a game show. So it's sort of like Running Man meets Undermountain. So it actually does exist, and it's now under the auspices of Goodman Games. So this is X-Crawl Classics, not to be confused with Dungeon Crawl Classics. So this is the entire run of X-Crawl Classic stuff now available again. We've got the core rule book for $60. We've got the super duper deluxe edition of the core rule book for $70. We've got the reference books for $10. We've got a collection of dice for $40 for dice. $40 for no, I'm sorry. I mean, yes, they're weird DCC dice. You got the D3 and the D28 and the D17. But, you know, I've played DCC, and I think the weird dice only came up like twice. And we've got some tokens that are available for $35 for tokens and $70 for the whole adventure pack, which features all the X-Crawl Classic, Dungeon Crawl Classic adventure packs. It is a fantasy world where the most popular sport is extreme dungeon crawling. The PCs pit themselves against manufactured dungeons, live streamed throughout the world. Each dungeon is designed by a dungeon judge who builds arenas filled with horrific monsters, lethal traps, blah, blah, blah. And you go through them like it's just show. So yeah, it's Dungeons and Dragons meets Running Man on a planet that is an entire big giant dungeon. And so people talk about this all the time without realizing that this is what they're talking about. Not to be mistaken from Dungeon Crawl Classics, which is also made by the same company, though you could probably cross them. This is X-Crawl Classics, and it is back. So there you go. Talk about a piece of pop culture, D&D culture that has sort of wormed its way into our collective unconsciousness where we bring it up in conversations without even realizing what we're talking about. Now here it is. Brains are funny. Speaking of brains, from the Melisorian Art Console, we have Fever Swamp Remastered and Fever Swamp Remastered Deluxe Edition for D&D or OSR or Troikia or just any D20 type stuff. It's $34 for the normal one and $55 for the super deluxe one. This is a hex crawl swamp adventure. 15 hex map location, 2 dungeon locations, cults, corpse piles, swamp clans. I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. It's the weather. Swampy goodness, swamp hags, swamp witches, swamp monsters, swamp poisons, swamp designs, swamp dangers. Yeah, so imagine, Pirates of the Caribbean in Anaheim, that opening scene with the guy sitting on the little house going dun, 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 and those 2 little houses on the imagine that as a role-playing game. Yeah, and for $34. So a swamp themed dungeon crawl, hex crawl. Sounds fun. From Chaosium, we've got some fun with Cthulhu. Look at this body horror cover. Oh my God. Tentacle porn. What is happening to this poor woman? Yeah, well, this is a $30 Call of Cthulhu. It's got a bunch of little short adventures in it that you can run for like a single evening. Each scenario includes some pre-generated characters. So you don't have to worry about your beloved character dying. Looks like there's about 3 or 4 of them. $30 for three short scenarios. Does that seem reasonable? It's like $10 a scenario. I suppose it depends upon how good they are and how big they are. But we get 3 Call of Cthulhu scenarios for $30. We've got a hodgepodge of stuff from Ophidius. We've got Celestra, the role-playing game. And we've got the 2nd edition of Star Trek. the role-playing game. These are both for the 2D20 or system. So Celestia can also be used with Dungeons and Dragons. Celestia is $45. The Star Trek Adventure 2nd Edition box set is $60. And the Adventure Game Toolkit is $42. In Celestia, PCs explore ruins and dungeons for legendary treasures, learn the truth of the cataclysm that broke the world, and try and stop it from happening again. All setting in the world of Celestia, which is a computer game. Celestia, the Crown of the Magister computer game. So, yeah, I mean, Cataclysm, legendary treasures, fallen gods. Cataclysm might have again. Sounds pretty familiar. Sounds like something that's been done before, but done well. $50 for a good, semi-decent video game-inspired campaign setting? Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to see more about it. And Star Trek is, Star Trek. They've just revised the rules and released them. It's the same 2D20 rule book. It's the same Star Trek, old, current, future. Congratulations on still being able to hold the license to Star Trek and give us all sorts of Star Trek love. If you guys haven't watched Lower Decks, it's probably the best Star Trek show on right now. From Catalyst Games, we have Shadowrun 1st Edition Anniversary reproduction and an adventure called Final Bets. So if you've never gotten a copy of the original Shadowrun, original rules, the unbelievably clunky, awful original rules where a 3-minute fight could take 4 hours and guns and grenades do the exact same amount of damage, you can pick it up now for $50. I'm sure you could find a PDF of it for a lot cheaper. You could probably find a used copy for a lot cheaper. I think I paid $10 for my copy of Shadowrun. But for $50, you can get a reproduction of the very first edition of Shadowrun. Or if you're more in tune to the more recent 6th World 7th edition of Shadowrun, we've got a brand new adventure about Shadowrun Paris. So leave behind the sprawl of Seattle, head across the cyberpunk Shadowrun ocean to the City of Lights, Paris. Climb that cyberpunk Eiffel Tower. Go to the now magically enchanted Louvre. Explore the necropolis. Eat real good cheese. All for Shadowrun, all for $50. Both of these are $50. And then we have X-Crawl Classic, which we already went through. And that's literally it this week. Nothing jumps out at me. If you're, like these are all like, yeah, okay. Like, yeah, a $40 swamp hex crawl of weirdness. That's okay, but it's not a must-have. Cthulhu love, I'm just more fascinated with this than interested in playing it. The Dungeon as game show was nothing new. Just the fact that this is sort of, like I said at the beginning, wormed its way into the collective unconsciousness that it comes up with in conversations all the time without people consciously realizing what they're talking about. They just know on some level that this existed. So the game's pop cultural influence has far outlasted its actual playtime. I don't even remember anybody actually playing X-Crawl Classics, and I think I only ever saw it on the shelves once, but apparently somehow it's just earwormed its way that it comes up in conversations, which is just kind of wonderful and kind of weird, much like Dungeons and Dragons and much like me. Thanks for sticking with me this morning. If you appreciate this content, let me know. If you never want to hear me talk about this topic ever again, let me know. Ignore everything I just said and buy my merch. Links down below. Have a great weekend. Be safe, and I will talk to you later. See ya.